I've watched 14 seasons of Archer. For 14 years, we've seen Sterling Archer drink, seduce, and blast his way out of every situation. Whether he's a spy, drug dealer, or a space captain, he always radiates confidence, arrogance, and selfishness. But even though they call him the world's greatest spy, I can't help but wonder if Sterling Archer is actually the world's most successful runaway. Behind those piercing blue eyes, within the effortless one-liners and underneath those turtlenecks in a slightly darker shade of black, is a swamp. At first glance, it might look like a water park, but with every neon slide, every drink at a themed bar, or for every second floating in that murky water, Archer sinks deeper into his denial. Hiding away at a funland, drowning himself in alcohol, call girls, and a lack of responsibility is a survival mechanism. It's self-destructive, lonely, and unfulfilling, but this way, his denial becomes an escape. And maybe that's why I can see myself in him. I can relate to Archer when it comes to escaping. My swamp is an endless stream of text, a coping mechanism I use to deny my situation by doing things I enjoy and hoping life would just work itself out, just like Archer. Sterling's life was never about money, women, or even being a spy. It was always about constantly running away from his feelings. This water park is perfectly built to numb his emotions, distract him from reality, and drown out the voices in his head. Maybe we all have a place like that, somewhere we go to avoid life's difficulties. Under the surface of Archer's swamp, there's rot, fear, and pain that he'd rather try to escape from than face. Sterling Archer, codenamed Duchess, followed in his mother's footsteps in becoming a Black Ops field agent. Never having known his father, being raised by his butler, and being sent to boarding school for 15 years has scarred him. Not to mention the bullying, the rough puberty, and the codependency of his mother. It would be more surprising if he was all fine. He learned from a young age that the people who should love him the most will be distant, that the only way to protect himself was to not create attachments, and that complex feelings make him exploitable. He has tried to create this suave James Bond type persona, a womanizer who's quick-witted and surrounded by danger. But unlike the persona he's trying to build, the chaos he's so often the center of is rarely, if ever, free of consequences. His recklessness, trying to seem unbothered and need to show off, brings suffering to himself and others. He might have a polished exterior, but just like the water in his swamp, he hides all the issues he can't deal with. He denies his reliance on his mother, that the lack of genuine connections bother him, or that the actions of others around him will impact his life, whether he likes it or not. For Archer, it's easier to uphold an exterior using rude and crude remarks and putting himself in danger than to accept and face what scares him the most: himself. If he's not in a high-octane situation, handling firearms, bad guys, or improvising a plan, you'll find Archer at a bar. Alcohol is his first barrier and strongest shield in silencing his true emotions. Sure, it can be a social lubricant which makes him intriguing, charismatic, and attractive to someone looking for fun, but it's a habit which might get him killed. If nothing else, it kills his inner world, numbing his feelings, dissolving his relationships, and it makes him unreliable. He might become invulnerable, bulletproof, and impervious to feeling bad, but it's a tragic dependency which protects him from loneliness. It's a loneliness that's stuck with him since before he was ever even born. He does reach a point in his life where his father's abandonment doesn't define him anymore, and yet the damage has already been done, and he's left with only a bottle to comfort him. When Archer is out in the field, he always deviates from the plan, creates chaos, and he basks in the uncertainty he manifests. During missions, he will make up new plans on the spot, with no time to reflect on the outcome or effectiveness of a specific strategy. His missions are like a water slide. He starts at the top with a smirk. Speed builds up through the unexpected turns until he's launched off at the end without knowing where he'll land. Fighting off psychopathic robots with their minds set on revenge, dealing with international drug cartels, and keeping the agency economically afloat are just distractions that help Archer avoid his trauma. By staying focused on the thrill of car chases, gunfights, and keeping up with the moniker "the world's greatest spy," Archer can avoid asking himself what, and more importantly, why he's running away. The act of staying undercover requires the gang to take on different roles and play the part to infiltrate, search, and gather information. Archer has multiple personas, but one of his favorites is Randy.
Sorry, hi, I'm Randy.
Randy is always the perfect man for any situation. In the Swiss Alps, Randy has a silver Olympic medal in skiing. Interviewing a scientist/madman who is threatening the planet with deadly nerve gas, Randy is an Emmy-winning camera operator. Need to keep an Albanian ambassador from being poisoned during his dinner at a celebrity chef's restaurant? Randy is a respected sous chef. But Randy isn't Archer's only escape by identity. For a while he's a pirate king. For some time he's flipping burgers with his adoptive family, and in his dreams he was a captain of a spaceship, among other things. Archer has a massive wardrobe filled with characters and personalities that allow his true self to stay concealed. By switching suits, roles, and perspectives, each persona gives him an excuse to not define himself. Denial can feel like safety. I'm sure you've at some point ignored how you felt, wasted time on distractions, or tried to reinvent yourself to run away from reality. I'm doing that right now. I'm using these videos as a way to disassociate from the reality of being unemployed, in the worst economy in a good while, without an obvious direction in life. My swamp of text is filled with thoughts I want to express, either to people in person, through videos like this, or by writing a book. I've done this a lot throughout my life, and I don't think it's weird, bad, or makes me weak. It makes me human. Denial helps us feel comforted. It allows us to stay in the familiar and keeps us from having to do the hard work of getting better. It's way easier to play video games, watch shows, or go out drinking with friends than it is to sit down, analyze, and work through your issues. Denial shouldn't be shameful. It's an inherent trait for a reason. It's there to protect us. We just need to overcome that denial at our own pace, so we can define ourselves and become who we truly want to be. Archer's Swamp is as much a pit of despair as it is a theme park filled with wonder. The reason he's so enthralling to watch is not because he can't escape despite his efforts, but rather it's because of the tragedy of him choosing not to even try to escape. By breaking down the polished facade, he would have to face what's inside the water. The grief, fear, and loneliness is just the tip. What would completely destroy Archer is the fact that, without the chaos, he might not know who he really is. For a lot of us, and for Archer, floating in the water with a drink in our hand is easier than facing the thought that, if I were to leave this swamp now, that would mean I've been lost all this time. Denial is hard to escape, and if you need help out of your swamp, this might be the right place for you. I'll be doing more videos like this, and I would love for you to join me in moving out of this swamp by subscribing. It also helps me out a ton if you leave a like to tell me you enjoyed the video. I'd also love to know what the swamp looks like for you, Or maybe you have thoughts on Archer's journey, what character I should talk about next, or if there's anything I missed. Feel free to tell me in the comments below. My name's Turtle-kun. Remember to eat well and sleep well, and I will see you in the next video.